I want to make it clear that I'm not against all competition fighters. I'm not trying to say that all competition fighters are bad people, evil people, whatnot. Okay? I'm just exposing my views on the negatives of what I see competition fighting heading towards. Alright? And to me, it's really about, if you're going to compete, it's about the way that you compete that makes the difference. Alright? It's hard to me to explain in words, but some of the movies that we watch, you could see it, what I'm talking about. Alright, so we all know about Rocky. Alright, those boxing movies with Rocky in it. You know, Sylvester Stallone portrays, somebody to me kind of like a true martial artist. Um, Fighting, for, I guess, for a greater purpose and to, you know, a humbling person, but talented as well. And then most of his opponents are reflecting the opposite of that. Alright? And those are the people that I say that are not competing in the right ways. Competing out of anger, hatred, violence. I don't, I don't, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's good. All right. Um, so people that enter MMA competitions, for example, if they go in with the right mentality, then that is what makes the difference. So I don't follow it much, but there is a fighter, that I saw some of his videos, and I guess he was a Sansao kickboxer, and then he went to MMA for a little while. So he was a martial artist. His name was Kung Lee, and he was a martial artist, and then he went into the MMA for a little while. So I saw some of his fights and some of the interviews. You know, based on the interviews, based on the way he fights and the way that he represents himself, I would say that he would be more of a martial artist than a sport fighter. Alright, so just observing the way that he speaks to when they asked about, how he felt about his upcoming fight, you could see a sense of humbleness in the way that he expresses himself. He'd be more um, respectful and humble about his thoughts on the next fight. All right, and when he fights, you could tell that he would not. Um, he would fight with less anger, and more of just peaceful skill than just somebody that just is going out there just to really hurt somebody. So he would be somebody, I would say, that actually was in the competition fighting, and probably still is in the competition fighting, that I'd say that would be more representative of a martial artist opposed to a sport fighter. Alright, someone like Muhammad Ali, for example, he had a very strong character, and the way that he would speak, he would talk, he would use language and, I guess, a way of verbally attacking somebody, but in a playful manner to gain like a psychological advantage, like an intimidation factor. But as you can see, the way that he did it, it was playful, and it would make people smile and laugh. So it's the way that he did it that made him. It wasn't as, it wasn't like he had hatred, for somebody. He was saying these things, and it was almost like he was almost like a comedian. So what I would say for him, he would be like more of a representing or representing somebody who would be like a martial artist, you know, that isn't really fighting out of anger and hatred. All right, and then you have somebody like the opposite, somebody like Mike Tyson, who was angry when he'd fight. I mean, he was very talented, very talented, but he had a lot of anger in him, and you could see the way that he fights. It's like just so much um, anger and hatred. All right, and when he would square up with people, he'd look at them in a way like he wants to kill them. And he was talented. But to me, that is just like a cage fighter. That's just like a sport fighter. He's not a martial artist. All right, so I'm using these examples to give you an idea of kind of what I'm talking about. I'm not saying I'm against all competition fighters, but what I'm saying is the way that you compete that will make the difference between whether or not you're a martial artist or you're just a sport fighter. And what it basically boils down to is respect. And just basically respecting the person that you're sparring against or fighting against, and not fighting out of hatred, but fighting, in a way of where you guys are just trying to help better each other. It doesn't have to be through hatred. Once it's through hatred, to me, it ends up becoming not just, it's not healthy, and it's just not good for society, and it promotes more violence, and something the opposite of what martial arts should lead you towards. All right, another movie, Fearless. I keep mentioning this movie, but at the end, Jet Li was competing, but the way that he would compete and the way that the people that he was competing against, it was respect there, and they would compete and also show compassion towards the people they're competing against, and they would not um, go out and hurt the people more than necessary. They would just hold back when necessary, and just to show that they may be better at certain techniques, but they wouldn't like if they know that the person um, is a little weaker or not as talented, not as skilled, they would hold back just to prevent the person from really getting injured. And that's what I mean by somebody who has like a good heart from within. Like you may be so-called competing, but you're looking out for the safety and the welfare of the person you're competing against. You're not out to really hurt them, but you're just kind of like friendly competition type of way of where you're just expressing yourself and maybe um, testing your ability, but at the same time you're not taking it too far, and basically just overdoing it and um, really hurting the person really badly. You know that's what I feel is more artful way of competing. It's more peaceful. All right. There's another recent movie, IP Man 2, with Donnie Yen. So towards the end of the movie, there's a boxer, and the Western boxer in that movie would represent more somebody who is just a cage fighter. Donnie Yen will represent someone more of like a martial artist. All right. The cage fighter just has no respect for anybody around them, and just basically wants to um, put everybody down around them, and place himself above everybody. Just no respect at all. Just extremely violent, and just like someone that has no heart. Just somebody that just does not care about people at all, and just willing to just beat down and even kill people and find pleasure in it. Um, that is not a martial artist to me. Martial artists would be represented more by Donnie Yen, who is a lot more humble, and skillful but humble, and able to control his his expression of anger. You know, able to control his force so that the people do not get hurt too much. Okay, what it boils down to is when you compete, there will always be people that think that they're better than you. But if you're at a really high level, you know, like pretty much who's better